So I'd like to talk a little bit about my personal background in art. So I came from a family of artists and educators, starting from my grandfather, who was a prolific Chinese landscape painter, but also does flower and animal paintings. And he studied in the Chinese Academy of Art in his earlier days, and also actually married my grandmother, who is an illustrator. And so because of that, my mother grew up in an art environment, studying from painting, printmaking, sculpting, and so on. So the way that she studied many mediums yielded to her more so to become an art educator herself, although she was also fairly well known in Guizhou, Guiyang, where I'm originally from, when she was doing painting and actually fashion design at the same time. So one thing that I want to mention about the environment of me growing up is that my mother later on, my father, who studies literature and education, so they actually together opened an art school. So ever since I can remember, in my environment, there has always been people painting, doing art-related things. I think it was till about 3-year-old when I realized that not everybody in the world studies art or do art. And so with that kind of an environment, painting and other forms of art become a very normal part of my life, and also joined different exhibits, nationally in China and sometimes even internationally, like to Singapore and different other countries. But I came into a little rebellious time when I was in middle school, where since everybody is telling me that I'm going to be an artist, therefore my conclusion was I wasn't going to be an artist. Not until I came to America to study in undergraduate school, I came back to art with my own choice, and it couldn't have worked out better, because this time it was my decision, and I've been studying it and now practicing as well as teaching it without regret. This is the only thing I really want to do, and this is the only thing I want to continue doing. Going back to art, as I mentioned, that I actually first of all was trained in undergrad as a painter. So dealing very much with the pictorial, with still images, with compositions. So there wasn't really much moving elements in my artwork. However, when I actually first went to SIC, I started taking some animation classes myself. This one class called the Intro to Experimental 3D, taught by Claudia Hart, who's my friend and colleague now, but was very influential to me, as she both as a really great artist, but also a really lovely educator who's able to use 3D animation as a medium in the art context, right? As I mentioned again, that a lot of time when we think about 3D, we think about movies and films and animation. While all of that is lovely, the software of 3D animation, such as Maya, RealFlow, can actually really be used in many other terms. So we like to call this experimental 3D animation. So kind of approaching it as a tool to make artwork, and very not unlike when you want to pick up a brush and do pictures. But of course, dealing with animation, a new dimension is introduced, because now you're not only dealing with X and Y, you are, and Z as the depth, right? That's also something that's 3D, right? By definition is that. You're also dealing with the dimension of time. So that was a little bit of a struggle coming in to me at first, because the way that I approach images are very different now, right? Think about the way that they interact with each other, and also later on, how do they interact with the viewer. So I really enjoyed creating many things in the environment that 3D software provides, but I also always kind of had this tendency to want to bring it kind of back into the physical world at the same time. So that has resulted me to sort of work off of the screen and kind of bring it into a space. And so what I really want a lot of times is for the viewer to have a bodily relationship with my artwork. You will see some of the example of my media installations. There's a lot of times a lot of gaps or a lot of sort of liminal sort of space that I create a barrier between the visitor and also the content of the artwork. So there is this idea of unveil, right? There is this idea of something is always hidden, that we might not be able to see the full image all of the time, even though sometimes we think we are, which comments, I think, on the kind of contemporary state of human society, even with the so media saturated culture, right? We're hearing so many different opinions and reporters from different angles, but we can't still quite get the full picture. And I think acknowledging that is very important, right? Acknowledging, approaching a subject matter, knowing that there is the viewer's limitation itself play in this perceptual experience is very crucial in understanding what may be the truth that we're getting from any information. So in my video installation work, there is a lot of abstract spaces that, you know, as a viewer, you're given a certain access to. So the kind of feeling that I a lot of time want to invoke from my viewer is that they desire more, right? That they acknowledge the fact that there is more out there, and that kind of looking back into our own body too, right? Both in a physical space and also kind of the thinking about us as a dot on the timeline, that we're only occupying limited amount of space and time of each individual. One other sort of keyword I just want to mention is experimental, because I think a lot of things in life, it's about play. Of course, we're learned and taught to be doing things in a certain way, and a lot of times that's really valuable because it comes from experience of people who come before us. But I think a lot of time we get more out of it when we participate in it. And I think play is a really good word as far as approach, because you don't get too nervous by it, and it's, you know, fun, but it's also work. And I think only when a good combination of both of that helps you to have you know, a lot of spaces to learn about things that you may not even know that you need to learn. And that's also what I love art so much, is because I think art allows that play to happen. It might not have a specific function in a certain way, but people definitely come into it learning something, and before they go out, maybe it's more about something that they understand about themselves, or more that they may understand about this world.